Armory Park Historic Zone Advisory Board, and I'm calling the meeting to order at 7:46 p.m. due to technical, or 6:46 p.m. due to technical issues. Okay, roll call. I am here. Maurice?
Aye.
Hey, is virtual. Helen?
Here.
Pat?
Here.
Stan?
Here.
Lynn?
Here.
Great, all right. We have a quorum with all six.
And Mr. Chair, members of the board, just to also make sure that we have in the minutes that we're running late also because the school was not open.
Yeah, I'll put that in the minutes. Michael, you
Okay.
some out, but yeah, they're in there.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. But at least we're all here, so we can have the meeting and we're prepared. Okay. Item number 2, approval of the LAR and minutes. This is, the agenda is wrong. It is actually October 15th. The draft Michael posted says October 17th, which is incorrect. But I sent both my draft minutes and a legal action report. We need to make the changes of the date.
What date is that?
It's actually the October 15th meeting. It wasn't the 17th. The minutes that you posted are wrong and said that it was a hybrid meeting and it was not. So I can give you corrections. There's also 10 paragraph changes and a couple of other things like there's a typo where it says Mr. T and then it just trails off. It was supposed to say he recorded the meeting. So with those noted changes, especially the date, is there a motion to approve the minutes from October 15th?
Approve as motion. Put forward the motion.
Great. And you're seconding, Maurice? Did you second?
I'll second.
Great, thank you. All right, roll call. I say aye. Maurice?
Aye.
Helen? Pat?
Aye.
Stan?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Okay, and in housekeeping, I sent this to Michael. It has not been posted yet, but we had a 4-minute meeting last Tuesday and I sent out a legal action report for the elections. We want to, there's Matt. Matt got elected and Steve Grady by unanimous vote of the neighborhood, and the other stuff, it's straightforward. Is there a motion to approve the LAR from November 12th? Thank you, Helen.
Second.
Okay, roll call. I say aye. Maurice?
Second. Aye.
Great. Helen?
Aye.
Stan?
Aye.
Lynn? Great. 6-0 for that. All right. Call to the audience. Item 3. Anything come in for you?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we get to move on to reviews. Item A, SD 0924-00098, 222 South Fifth Avenue, Armory Park, and this is a continued case from last month. For the record, the Historic Landscape Subcommittee saw this on October 31st, and I sent you all the draft LAR of their comments. What's probably going to be presented tonight reflects a number of those changes. And now I'm going to turn it over to that crew. And who wants to start? Okay, Matt starts. Hold on, Michael.
I can.
Mr. Chair, are you changing the order of the
That's not the right one. Let me just.
No, we're on item 4, reviews, 4A.
720 South End.
Pardon?
720. Item A is 720 South End.
The agenda?
Yes.
Oh, I guess I did. I'm sorry. Sorry about that, Axel. I had it wrong. My correction, item 4A is SD 0824-00080 720 South 3rd. This is also a continued case. And we have Axel Golden with us to present.
And Axel, you should be able to share your screen. I already made you co-host.
Okay,
Thank you, Michael.
welcome, Mr. Chair.
Had it in my head wrong.
Yeah, I was like, you can always change the order, but that would be a vote by the board. If you so decide to change the format,
It's fine.
you can still change it.
And I brought prinouts if anyone wants to take a look at what was.
what
There's 2 copies here. And the next one.
All right, I'm just bringing the screen to share. Hold on.
That one.
Okay.
So maybe for the sake of this case, because it's a continued case, it probably would be best you just focus on the items that the board requested from you instead of going back to the whole.
Well, there's
This is-
substantial changes,
Okay.
so.
Okay. Uh, I'm going to focus on the bullet points first. And then we can go back over any, because I think the bullet points will answer a lot of the changes. Okay, so the first one is all new windows to be inset in the wall, not flush mounted and dimensioned on plans. So I made sure to go through all the plans and make sure everything was heighted and dimensioned. And I also added some window details on this page here showing the insets. And I also showed the original windows in detail. And I also detailed the new window over the kitchen. On the next bullet point was specify door configurations, materials, and dimensions. I went to my, if you go, sorry, I'm going to jump around here. On the window schedule and the door schedule, I put notes here and they're all keyed to each door on the plan. So all the details should be clearly and neatly connected in that way. It says third bullet point, indicate which windows can be repaired versus replicated. So that's also where I use this schedule to keep that tidy. Here, I think is one of the bigger changes, which are now we're proposing these windows to be fully replaced and replicated rather than restored, because I had the artisan back out to the site, and he highly suggested to just fully replicate them with new wood. He said by the time he was to remove everything that it would just be a lot more cost efficient and effective to just make new wood parts and do that. So I went ahead and indicated that on the plans. So next bullet point, reconfiguration of the kitchen window should retain existing voussoir, western window line, replicate any extension of a needed brick sill so the history of the window can be read. So, and then also changed from a casement type. So that's also keyed here on the plan. I have a detail of it. Let me scroll over to it here. So here's a detail of that kitchen window. It's just we're proposing the window to be exactly like the other windows. However, it's gonna have a wider shape to fit into that new opening. And then I have a demo detail of that wall as well, so that you can see exactly that opening dimensions and such. And I'll scroll over to that really quick. I think it's at the top here. on the demo plan. Yeah. So right here, you can see dashed. This is where we all discussed in the first review to cut just below the existing voussoir and then come over to this window side and create the opening that way. So as shown in the other elevation, the sill will be brought across and matched. There's a 2-inch overlap here on the left. And then I'm proposing the voussoir to come all the way across too and be replicated. So the next one is consider reimagining the existing non-permitted rear porch to be compatible by stuccoing the exposed block. So I went ahead and noted that on the plans to stucco over the block. Thank you. So that it looks, so that we don't have CMU exposed on the back. So next bullet point is consider vents, scoring lines, and other proposed ground to rafter stucco finish on the rear addition renovation to minimize moisture problems. Provide continuity to architectural lines, specify and finish the stucco on plans. Okay, so I went back over with the client all of our things that we talked about in the last review, and one of the other commenters had talked about leaving the new repaired rear stem wall exposed brick. So I went ahead and changed it to be exposed. Sorry, I'm trying to also find. Oh, I think this is a good shot of it.
It's actually in your other set of plans that were put on the side. There were two different things. You may have it all in one on your computer.
Oh, are you talking about the presentation? Or the renderings? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so this is the rendering. Here. So on the previous review, I had shown the stucco coming down to the ground and covering this stem wall. So now we're proposing to leave it exposed. And we had also mentioned the stucco wall being in line with the new stem wall. It's actually an existing stem wall, but it will be, most of it's new. From this little line right here, all the way to this corner will be new. But from this little line to the left is existing. This is also an existing vent and the existing location of the gas meter. So I believe that's that bullet point. Next one is consider screened storm windows for insulation and function of the restored windows and potential modifications of opaque and appropriate front screen door. So the client at this time isn't going to be touching the front door. We haven't proposed anything. I think in the future they may want to do something there, and we can come back for another review for that once they decide to do something with it. So moving on along, consider screening options or relocation for the water heater. So what I did is added a screen wall here in front of the water heater and the mini split condenser. That way it would screen it from the street. And then this corrugated panel, it'd be similar to the fence that was approved on the other side of the house on the north side. It would basically match that, and it comes out to the same length as the porch right here. Well, the enclosed porch. Okay, so last one is show plans and elevations with dimensions of the proposed wall and gate. All right, so I have that on the plans, but I also have some renderings of it here. Right here. So this is a 4-foot wall. It's stucco CMU, and then we have a detail here of the same brick as a stem wall, and this belt course would be the same height as the belt course on the house, and the same dimension as well. And then this opening here would match up right with the opening of the front porch. The sides are 6 feet, so there's a little detail where it steps up on the sides here. And that's a proposal for the front wall. That is the end of the bullet points. So if you'd like, I can run through the presentation, or I can send it off to you guys and you can ask questions. It's up to you.
I've got lots of questions. Does someone else want to start first?
I have one question, actually, which has kitchen window,
Yeah,
and it's not visible from the street, but
it's not visible from the street, so we allowed them to possibly expand it, but we requested that they keep the original voussoir to indicate the original historic window and not replicate it, but to add a functional sill for however wide it eventually went.
because it looks like it's a double hung window,
Yes.
not sure. I'm not sure about a double hung window just in practicality, but also it sort of adds some extra detail there, which is not only a historical, but I think possibly practical.
There are no examples of very wide, very short double hung windows in all of Armory Park. A window opening of that proportion could be two side-by-side double hung with a post in the middle of it, but that's not an historical type of double hung window. They were always vertical. Any horizontal spacing would have been done with a series of windows rather than a single window. So we may need to rethink that. Also, replicating the voussoir means you would have to destroy half of the existing voussoir that's there to get new brick angles to allow for the change. So we didn't request replicating that voussoir when you do your brickwork, but the sill looks good. So would you consider potentially either two casement windows, which would be a new design feature on that with a central post, or two side-by-side double hung with a post within that? Because if you pull up the page that shows the proportions, you have that on your actual construction drawings again. You can see that it's essentially, there's room there for two windows with a central post in the opening you're proposing.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
You see what I'm
You're
saying?
talking about putting a post here in the middle and then doing two vertical windows.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would make more sense, and not do anything with the voussoir or try to replicate it, because the voussoir that's there shows the size of the historical window, and if you modify it, you will be creating a false sense of history of a large wide window in that particular location.
Yeah.
I think there's a potential problem for doing that, though, is that I don't know what you're going to use for a lintel for that new window. But if you change the original, if you maintain the original design, extended that across the whole window, you'd be able to develop a steel lintel to
Yeah.
support that.
They'd have to do a steel,
You
structural
have,
steel.
I don't know if you talked to a mason about removing that much brick without having some type of shoring over that, because that's a bearing wall, I'm assuming. So you've got some weight on there, and you've got a fairly large opening.
Yeah.
Have you got a lintel detail of that?
Yeah, it's called a power lintel. So it's steel. It's a steel lintel, and you're right. It would have to be shored up, and then you'd knock it out, and you'd have to You have to put some, it would be definitely a lot of work. Yeah, you're right. But it's
So
doable.
if you're using a powered lintel, that means you've got to take all of the existing vertical brick out in order to put that new powered lintel in.
Well, they should put a steel plate under the existing voussoir and take it all the way over to,
You can't just have a simple steel plate underneath that brick.
it depends upon the dimensions of the steel, but.
Whatever.
4'11", 5 feet might be problematic, yeah.
That would be my big question. I agree with the double window. I think that makes sense. But I'm concerned about how they're actually going to handle that structurally.
You might even need to put in a steel post holding up the new steel lintel that is covered in wood between two new double hung side by side double hung windows to support that opening because it is so wide.
Yeah, I
Is
think I think the idea of the post in the middle makes sense. I've definitely seen that around the neighborhood. A lot of times the post is wood and part of the usually painted the same as the window frame.
It would normally be wood in a window, but you may need to have a steel inside a wood casing to support your new lintel
Oh,
in a
yeah.
optimized
understand.
brick wall.
Yeah. Would would the steel be visible? I don't think this we would cover it in wood.
It shouldn't be visible. You would probably see the underside of it along the voussoir at the top of the window opening because it will be smooth and you won't see the underside of any sort of brickwork for the opening. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Well, what's the story on the header then? Are we putting the voussoir back in over the entire window or just half?
There's no point in replicating the brickwork because it's going to create a false sense of history there. So they should keep the voussoir that's there and repair the brick in the upper part of the window they're removing.
Okay, I still don't know how you put the lintel in without taking the brick out. There's no way to do
Well, there's a couple ways to do it. You can you can insert a steel you can insert a steel lintel from either side to support it while you remove the bricks. And then once it's out, you can shore it up and then put in a cleaner metal plate in there. And it comes across on either side. And then that helps bear the weight so you basically it's delicate work, but it can be done. If you look across all of downtown, you can see very many examples of new lintels that have been put in much taller buildings than this one that bear much more weight. The thing about this spot is there is a couple roof rafters up here on the top that are bearing, but from the bottom of this head up to the top of the wall actually is only a few feet. So there's not much brick on top of this header. Also, there's the rafter coming across. So basically what I'm trying to say is you could actually shore up the roof itself clear down to the ground before you remove any bricks. So really there's only, like I said, only a few feet of bricks here that you can keep shored up in place while you remove this. I hope that helps answer any of those questions that you guys have about what's that?
A master mason should know how to do it.
Yeah, I've had a mason out to talk to him about it, and I've also had a contractor to talk about it, and I've also spoken with a structural engineer about it. So it's definitely doable. I'm noting on the plans to keep that voussoir in place. I do apologize but I remember in our last meeting it being split between one of the reviewers saying that I should extend it and another one saying maybe I shouldn't. So in my mind, I went to the client and told them that they had been talking about going both ways. In our eyes, we thought that, keeping it just on the side might look kind of funny, might look kind of like a little eyelash on the side. So it might be better to just bring it across. However, if you guys wanted us to keep it exactly how it is, that way it would maintain the history, then I think that's totally fine too. To just keep it on the side. However, I think the client had wanted to bring it across just to make it look a little better. That's all. I know that you guys are concerned with the historical part of it, and I totally get that. It makes sense.
Are we okay keeping the original voussoir and not replicating it?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. And then, are you okay with two side-by-side double hung windows with a central post in your opening?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, great.
That might make the work a little easier for us.
I expect it will, and it will also read better. And the
Yeah.
brick will show that you made a wider window there at a later date that's non-historic, which is appropriate.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But the sill is needed because it is functional.
Understood.
Okay,
Next one.
Helen,
Okay, so, what is your gate made? In the front wall?
Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm gonna turn my speaker up.
Sure, the gate in the front wall.
Oh, the
What-
gate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me go over the material.
Yes. I mean, what's the design? Is it closed? Is it open?
Oh,
It's
it's infilled with wood and it's in a metal frame.
I think in terms of actually keep the house, you would be better off not infilling. I think that would be one of the criteria, see the house from the street. And I think the wood infill detracts from that.
From seeing the house, the wood does?
Yes,
Oh. Well, it's only 4 feet tall, so you'll be able to see clear over the wall.
yeah, it's a question of space and visual perception.
it's a more modern approach to a gate than is typical in the neighborhood. But other people may want to speak about that too. There is one thing, your original proposal, when you talked about it last time, showed a 4-foot wall all the way around, and now you've got 6-foot sides. Just so you know, TSM standards 9-02, 0.7, 0.2, point D, 0.9 fences. You have to match your streetscape, and there are no 6-foot walls or solid objects all the way to the street frontage. They're all open. So you can do the 4-foot masonry wall, but it has to be transparent above 4 feet. So if you want to come back with, some sort of wrought iron on top to get your 6-foot sides, that's one thing, but you can't have a 6-foot solid wall going all the way to South Third. There is one example in your development zone, and it is a non-permitted illegal fence.
So that was going to be my next.
Yeah,
on this.
in Armory Park, in Armory Park, you have to have the front fence be from the street face to the facade of the building being transparent.
Mr. Chair, it's not only in Armory Park, it is in all zones.
Yeah.
All historic preservation zone, it's in the UDC.
So
The front is 4, the side can be 6.
the sides can be 6, but in Armory Park
And-
specifically, it says that they can be no taller than 4 feet back to the facade. 6 feet if it's open, and if the development zone allows for it. So you're gonna need to take that sidewall down. I know you got a garage to the south that you're trying to cover up, but I suggest you look into shrubbery.
There's a garage? Oh, the garage to the south. Yeah, right. Right, the
Yeah.
driveway that they have.
Yeah, but 4 feet will cover their barrels and the bulk of the car. So,
I think the concern with both side walls and the gate is the same. It's a question of vision from the street. And I think those are sort of this part of the same issue.
Lynn,
I have a question, which is, what brought about the change to take it up to 6 feet? Is that,
I don't know.
is that,
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
think that question's for me. The client wanted the sides to be 6. And from what I was reading in the UDC, I had understood that it could go to 6 on the sides, but it said to pay close attention to the design of the front area. I didn't see the part where it couldn't go above 4. But
You can
I-
have a 6-foot fence on the sides all the way to the street front, but it has to be transparent above 4 feet.
got it.
So you can't have a solid wall there. And across the street, you'll see a metal corrugated wall that was put in, and it's illegal. They never got an approval for any of that. And I checked every address on the street. There are only 2 other approved fences on that block in the development zone, and they were all limited to 4 feet.
There's at this house, let me see if I can find a picture of it. There's a fence to the north.
Yep,
I think it's just out of frame in my picture.
yeah, it's at 709. Yeah, it's an illegal fence. They never asked for a review or a permit. Was never approved.
So it's right over here on the right side. It's a
I'm not
metal
sure.
fence. It's a metal fence and it's probably 8 feet tall.
Those are never permitted under any cases.
we
It's
can-
amazing what people do.
We cannot use things that are not permitted as a justification for not following the code. If you were permitted, then maybe you can use it as a precedent. Based on what they're saying, it was never permitted, so even if it is in your development zone and it is 8 feet or 9 feet, the code does not allow for that. And this board cannot approve you to go up to 8 feet just because that one is existing.
No, that makes sense. I just wondered because yeah, it looked really tall and I did look at this house here years ago, had a review for that fence, and I imagine that's when it was put in. But it wasn't clear if that review went through or not, but I think it happened in 2015 for that corrugated fence to the north. Yeah,
Yeah,
sure. So
yeah.
I
I looked at that. I think it's a withdrawn thing. There actually are no permitted fences on that property. There hasn't been a permit there since 1950.
right. Yeah, so would the wall be compliant if we brought the sides down to 4 so the whole thing was back up to a maximum of 4 on the sides as well?
Yes.
Okay. I think that the client would appreciate at least that.
Yeah, if they want to get taller, they can propose some sort of transparent open metal mesh, wrought iron, any number of things on top of that wall as a minor review at a later date, but they can't have a solid wall up there.
Okay. Understood. Thank you.
Okay, other things.
No, everything that I saw was, answered.
Um,
I did, what I did, you're using a colored block for the stem wall in the back of the porch?
I'm sorry, a colored wall on the porch, is that what you said?
Colored block wall for the stem wall,
Oh yeah, right here?
yeah. No,
Yeah, so
that's a stucco. I'm talking about the reddish color, slump, it looks like a slump block.
So a section of it you just said is actually brick, and then you're gonna replicate with new brick for the portions that are missing, correct? For your
That's
stem
correct.
wall?
Okay.
Yeah,
It's brick,
I
it's
think
not,
it's not slump block. It's exposed red brick and it'll match the existing brick size and dimension and color.
And you're gonna restore the original vents there so that you do have ventilation underneath that porch extension?
Yes, this is an existing vent on this side. It'll be inset. And this is an existing vent here. And then I'm proposing, I believe, a new one on the other side here.
Okay. So you get some cross vent. That seems
Yeah.
to. And then you're restoring the vents all the way around the rest of the baseline, which we discussed the last meeting. That's what you
Yes.
planned.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
for example, this one has a rag stuffed in it right now. So it's gonna get a new vent. It's gonna get properly mounted and there are a lot of intact examples to replicate.
One other thing, the Secretary of Interior Standards and UDC 5.8 and TSM 9-02 says repair a window over replacing it. And last time we saw you, you said you were going to do some repairs to a few windows, but most of them were fine and it didn't make any sense to. And now you're proposing replacing every single window in the house with a new fabrication. It does not show an OG detail, which is original. And are there some windows that you would be possibly okay with retaining the original windows and maybe putting on a new storm window or some other insulation thing rather than replacing every single window, because that's not what we usually allow?
Yes, so by the storm, do you mean sort of covering it up with the front to preserve it?
Yeah, you could make, instead of like a screen frame in front, because there's a little indent in the two side portions of the window framing where screens
Yeah.
originally appropriate. You could make a new storm window that is glass instead of screen that you could inset there over the original window, preserving it in sight, but have the net effect of having a dual pane window.
I see.
Especially those three on the front where you see them from the street. If they're totally brand new, they don't have the OG and they're obviously new, even though they mimic the new stuff, it'll be pretty obvious that everything's been changed on that house.
Well, I mean, what if even if he exactly replicates the wood and the
I was
Go
just
ahead.
surprised to see it because we had always talked about the south window in the front parlor and replicating one where you're taking out a door on the south side and putting a window back in, but you had not mentioned any of the other ones according to cost, and now you're presenting replicating and replacing every single window on the house, which is not usually what we ever want to do. So
So basically, the code allows you to replace as a last resort.
yeah,
You have to show every effort that the window or the door that you are replacing cannot be repaired. So the first preservation approach is we repair. If you cannot repair, then you can move to the next stage, which will be replaced in kind. But this, based what is happening here, you're just proposing to replace the windows without justifying that you cannot repair them. I guess that's what the board is saying.
I see.
I don't, does it actually say that in the code?
it does
Yes.
indeed.
It
Yeah,
does?
yeah, the Secretary of Interior Standards.
Secretary Interior Rehabilitation Standard.
You're supposed to repair anything you possibly can and only replace it in kind if it is not repairable.
Is that specific to a structure that's specifically noted on the historic, on on the.
Yeah, he said.
Any contributing historic structure,
Contributing or any specific on that.
and it applies to every building and all HPZs.
And if you see on your agenda, we are using the rehabilitations.
You know, just to bring this up, there are people that are trying to sell you new windows. in the
Yep.
neighborhood. They came by and talked to me and their price was outlandish, but I said, you can't change the windows. They said, no, we've done that before in the historic district and we got permission to do it.
In some cases, everything's rotted out and they have to be replaced. There's been a number of examples where things weren't taken care of and the sills were rotted, the sides were rotted, they've all been whatever. And they got replaced for specific windows, but not every window in the building. Lynn,
No, I'm just saying, I have those completely rotted now.
then you can replace them by showing us that they're so rotted out. But, yeah. Some of those look like they can be restored from what we can see from the photos. So,
Yeah, I mean, I had my I had my carpenter. He's made these windows for me before in El Presidio, almost the same windows. And so I brought him out, and originally, like I said, the plan was to selectively go to each one and repair them. But I had him out to more closely look at them when after the first review, because I had to go out and just double check all my dimensions again because we were really zoomed in on the project on the first review. So at that time, when I went out to measure them, we looked at them and he just recommended, he was like, hey, Axel, like by the time I take these apart, they're just going to start falling apart. So it's just going to make sense for me to make a new window, come out here and install them one by one. He'll make them one by one and install them. And that's what he said with the client there as well. And so that's what we moved forward with. If you want us to go back and do even another more extensive review, I think maybe I can take pictures of every single one and key them and show detailed pictures. Or, I mean, at that point, it might be a good idea just to meet some of you guys at the site if you'd like to see the windows. But yeah, some of them are definitely beyond repair. And some of them, I think you're right, they might be able to be repaired, but it's actually going to cost the like what the carpenter said is it's going to be a little bit not effective to repair the windows just because there are parts that are rotted at a joint. So when you take those out, then you have a whole quarter of the window out, and then there might be another piece that's rotted on the other corner. So it might appear as though it's savable, and they might even be slightly functionable, but by the time you repair them to actually work in your everyday life, where you want to pop the window open and let some air out, it's going to be really, really not effective to repair them. And that's where I was at with the artisan.
I hate to
So,
tell you
Mr.
this,
Chair-
we are not allowed to consider cost in restoring an historic building. We have to follow the code. And the code says repair anything you can, even if you splice in new things. And our experience is most of the exterior framing, except maybe the lower sill and the bottom stiles of some windows, are usually salvageable and may take a few new parts to become original windows again, but not lock, stock, and barrel replacement.
So I know the project you are talking about in air procedure. That one was allowed to be replaced because they were damaged, which is what the code allows for, which is what Mr. Chair has said here. So just because he did that in air procedure does not mean that he's going to come and do the same thing here. You need to show proof that these windows are damaged and cannot be repaired. If not, the preservation approach is you start with repair before you replace.
Okay. Understood.
And I
If the
know,
board chooses, you can keep that aside and do it as a subject of an on-site minor review.
to determine which
To
windows,
determine which windows can be salvaged, which window needs to be replaced. You can choose to do that as a minor. We
Yeah,
can set-
I'm happy to offer that service to the client. Hopefully we can continue with the back windows, but as far as the main house windows, I I think that makes sense. We can come back with a minor review and do a more even more zoomed in assessment of each window.
yeah. The ones in
Sure.
back look, the ones in back look okay. You're basically saying you're insetting them with no sill or detail by 1 inch into the frame wall, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And they're all double hung wood.
Yeah. Those will be made by the same craftsman.
And you changed the electrical location site to the north side,
Yes.
the west wall.
Yes, that was changed because there's a new post on the north side that the house to the north is using. That's a TEP post with an easement. And so
Okay.
when I contacted when I had my electrical engineer out and he contacted TEP, they said that that's where the new drop would come from, because right now the existing drop is going all the way down to Railroad, and that is too long of a line to upgrade to 200 amp.
We don't need all the details. The plans just show it. I'm just clarifying the fact that you're moving,
Oh, okay.
okay? And you're stuccoing the base of the porch, but keeping it as extant, even though it was never approved, which is okay. It's there, it's functional, it's at the back. And you've got 2 HVACs, and you've now shown those, storing all the grills, and you're keeping the front door exactly as it is. And you have noted that it is a replaced new door on the porch on the north side off of the kitchen that you propose to keep, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it's basically the kitchen window, the wholesale replacement of the windows, and the front wall at 6 feet that we've got problems with.
And the gate.
And the gate. So is there any chance you could come up with something that's more historically aesthetic for a gate that we could roll into a minor review when we do your windows?
Sure.
Okay. Sorry. We're not trying to be evil. We're just trying to make sure the house gets done properly all the way around, and generally you've done a great thing. Questions
Oh
about?
no, I was just answering your question.
Yeah, okay. There's that screening wall, code permits a 7, no. Building code allows for a 7-foot screening mechanism. The water heater is 7 feet tall. Zoning code doesn't allow for any solid things over 6 feet for walls and fences. Are we okay allowing the exception to block the view of the water heater with the corrugated fence that they're proposing?
I think it's reversible. I think it's minor piece.
Okay,
Agreed.
okay, so we're okay with that one. You got that one through. You can keep your water heater where it is. Okay, Maurice, comments, thoughts?
Okay, so I like the idea of a double window as opposed to a single window in front of the house. I think your idea is good. Okay, it's going to look much better than one large window, and it'll be more in line with the neighborhood.
You mean in the kitchen?
Now, yes. Okay, now I do have some concern with the gate. Okay, the gate is not correct for the neighborhood. Okay, I would advise, that maybe Axel, I would advise maybe, look around, see what people are putting up. but those wood insets just, you know, it doesn't look right. Okay, it's too modern of a construction look. Okay, this is not what you want there. Okay, the rest of the project looks pretty good. Okay, I have, you know, no problems with it. Okay, again, like I said, that front gate is what really, you know, to me is a problem. Okay. If you could look maybe forged iron or something, maybe a way to go. Okay, I would definitely, you know, drop the wooden frills, you know, that just don't belong in that neighborhood. Okay, if you want to have more privacy, maybe some steel plates, you know, replace them with steel plates or something, you know. But like I said, you know, those wooden frills just don't look right. You know? Outside of that, like I said, I think you're doing a good job. Okay. As far as, you know, replacing all the windows, you know, as opposed to replacing the windows that cannot be fixed, like John was saying, you know, unfortunately, if a window is repairable, that has to be done. Okay, it's a priority when it comes to the historic, you know, part of the neighborhood. Okay, when you go into that neighborhood, you sign in for, you know, those particular details that make it special. Okay. So maybe, you know, your client may need more explanations of, you know, what is expected, you know, as far as those little details. But I think it's really important, you know. Outside of that, I think you're doing a good job. So that's my comment.
Thanks,
One
Maurice.
Axel, one
You're
other thing.
welcome.
You see that louver in your front gable? Any chance of like fixing it? Or do you have plans
Oh,
to
that,
where it's
yeah,
okay,
yeah, I think I can definitely add that.
great. That'd be good. And we're not allowed to discuss the inside, but I find it very sad that you're removing the original pocket doors in the front room.
Oh, yeah.
There are not that many left, and you've got a really nice set of double pocket doors from your front room that are original, and it's a character defining feature, even though we're not allowed to talk about interiors. So if you could possibly talk your client into maybe keeping those, they will find that the house will have more value and a lot more integrity if you do. But we
Sure,
can't
I
tell.
can. I'll absolutely I'll absolutely tell him.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, so we are approving the revised plans as presented with lowering the front wall to 4 feet all the way around, coming back for a minor review for a different gate design that is more compatible
And transparent.
and transparent. A minor review for assessing. We know that 2 windows are going to be replicated. The south window in the front parlor, and the one that is a replacement for a door that's being removed. But all the other windows, in terms of what gets restored or replaced, will be covered by a minor review on the main structure. And on the back half of the house, we're all okay with everything as is?
So instead of the one long window, it will be 2 small windows with posts.
Yeah, I hadn't covered that. Okay, and then on the kitchen window, you retain the original voussoir. You replace brickwork with the string courses that are there, and you do 2 double hung windows with a central post instead of an elongated one, but you do extend the sill.
Yes.
Okay. Does someone want to formally make that motion?
Mr. Chair, just for clarification,
Yes.
when you talk about the front gate design and transparency, you can have 4 feet solid.
This is true.
And then you can go, transparency should be above the 4 feet.
I understand that, but several members expressed a concern with the modern design of that gate, so we're asking them to possibly think of a more historically compatible gate that could be a quick minor review when we look at your windows. Does that seem acceptable, Alex?
Yeah.
Okay. Helen is so moved. Lynn was first. Okay. Roll call. I say aye. Maurice?
Aye.
Helen?
Aye.
Pat? Dan?
Aye.
Lynn?
Aye.
Okay, great. I will write all that up and send it back and hopefully it will be very clear, but generally you got most of your stuff approved.
Yay. Thank you guys. Appreciate you.
And thank you for coming back and working with us. And who knows, maybe we'll save save your clients enough money on the window thing that they can like put in a nice screen door on the front.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thanks so much for coming. You know the next steps with Michael. I will again try to get these things out pretty quickly, and there will be a December meeting for PRS, and you'll definitely want to be on that. There's not a meeting for PRS?
There is a meeting, but the agenda is full.
Ooh, okay.
This project will be looking at sometimes in January or thereafter.
Okay, okay.
Just call me, send me an email, then we'll talk about the next steps.
Alex, since it's gonna be that long, if you want, I'm happy to meet with you on site with Michael to take a look at the windows so that you can get a definitive list of which windows get replaced before you go to PRS.
Yeah, we can do
It might help. There is a problem with PRS in January. You realize that a full 1/3 of the Historic Commission's terms expired December 31st, including all of PRS.
We'll still have a quorum.
Okay, just thought I'd let you know.
I'm aware of that.
Okay.
We are still good.
We'll get it sorted out. Thanks so much, Alex. Axel. I don't know
Excellent.
why
So
yeah.
that's all right. So are you saying, were you talking about the minor review happening in December? Is that what you were talking about?
We could come out and provide guidance on your windows in the interim so that some of the questions of what needs to be replaced will be ready by January when you go to PRS. It will speed up your
Okay.
time frame,
Okay.
but you'll have to come back to us for a minor review on Zoom for the gate and a clarification of those things, but it could be done quickly. But we could help you out on site to determine where you might want to propose like storm windows.
All right. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, moving on. Item 4B. Now we are back to Armory Park. Sorry about the
You were
boo-boo before. Okay, so 222 South Fifth Avenue, SD 0924-00098. Continued case again. And Matt, now you're up.
Hold on.
Somebody needs to give me permission. then.
You. So let me give it to you, Michael. You're good.
And just so I know for the minutes when I'm reading them up, Olivia, are you just a guest joining us or?
Yes, I am.
Ah, great. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And Jasmine's here with the parks, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Elliot joined us.
Jasmine and Elliot.
Oh, great. He wasn't on it earlier.
There we go. All right. When my battery holds out.
Yeah.
So that's pulling up. Good evening, everyone.
I'm Matt Smith with Arc Studios, Eric Barrett to my right with Arc Studios, Michael and Valerie with Swain, and Elliot and Jasmine from the city are on the call as well. We are representing Armory Park, specifically the dog park and the pavilion areas. After the last meeting, we were taking a look at those. And then after that meeting, we met with the historic landscape subcommittees and got some feedback. So we've taken all that feedback and compiled it into what we're about to present. Starting with the dog park, the initial feedback was that it was not a shape that fit the park and it was overly large. So we explored some ideas, met with HLS, and have
This planner, the door and
this plan works for now. And have this to present. So this dog park, we've kind of turned away from the term dog park and we're calling these dog runs. So for reference, the large dog run is 4,700 square feet and the small dog run is 2,300 square feet. They are all towards 12th Avenue with entrances off the sidewalk off of 12th Avenue. 2 maintenance gates over the water line with 1 service maintenance gate between the two dog parks. Overall, the dog park intrudes into the park by about 50 feet. It's about 150 feet total long.
That longer, you said 145, but that's 57.
Round it down. So,
Okay,
I don't have those numbers right on. So.
it's all right.
The fence itself is still going to be 60 inches tall. It's going to have pickets up to 4 feet with a middle rail and then a top rail. So that top 12 inches will be open aside from 2 rails. The surfacing of the dog park is going to be all sod, except for the 2 entrance corrals and pads for picnic tables.
So
These are
the fence.
details of the fence. The maintenance gates and the single gates will be in similar style. Pickets are 3 inches on center, and this will all be painted black or bronze or some color scheme in that range.
I know they asked if it could go down to 4 feet. I take it, so they came back and said, no, it has to be 5.
For security and safety, 5 feet.
Okay.
It's a quick overview of the changes on the dog park. Moving on to the pavilion and plaza space. Michael and Valerie will dive into that further, but some of the changes that came from the landscape subcommittee were to remove the central sod area. So you'll see in the drawings that is going to be replaced with concrete. And we are going to share generally 2 versions, 1 rounded, 1 square for the plaza space.
Yep.
I think this is a question for you, and we can do it later, but you showed us plaza street furniture before, and then the city said concrete. Are there just now 2 picnic tables in the dog park and 2 benches in the dog park and no other benches and tables in the park?
There'll be other benches in the park, but they'll be concrete. Picnic tables, as of now, are just within the dog park.
Are they
And-
shown somewhere or no?
I've got questions about plants, but we can do that later. Okay.
Okay. So yeah, we, like Matt said, we met with the historic landscape subcommittee. Helen was there, so she was a witness to all that. This is what we presented before, the different options. I did want to show just briefly the park pictures again. Let me close this, I think it's a little larger. Sort of current condition of what we are looking at with the existing band shell that we'll be removing. This is the park from the mid-century with the larger plaza. This was one of the things that did come up in the historic landscape subcommittee meeting, and about the central plaza being more square than round, and really talking about these trapezoidal shapes that are on 3 sides being the character defining feature. So we were sort of working with that in this redesign. Again, this is the original band shell prior to the Armory construction. And this is Washington Park, where you see the central round plaza.
The earliest drawing we can find of this park in this configuration, actually the only drawing we can find of the park in this configuration, was from the Sanborn maps around 1900. And then we have this older picture of Military Plaza, which basically just has footpaths crossing it in all sorts of directions. So it gives you an overview of where the park came from. We'll go over this again in a minute to talk about the Central Plaza again. And then this is the old Camp Lowell photograph that Valerie found that sort of got us thinking about this tent form or tent pavilion shape. So like Matt said, now I'm going to show the square plaza at first. The last drawing I have puts the round plaza back in. I think we can all figure that out, but we'll show you what's going on.
And just for reference, that was the dog park that was presented to the landscape subcommittee, and they asked to have it joined with no walkway through it, so it's smaller in proportion.
Yes. Yeah, this is not the correct dog park in this. So, like I said, we replaced that round-ended plaza with a single plaza, which we have a concept for how to break that paving up that I'll show in just a moment. The other comment we got was not to have any turf. We used to have turf in the center of that circle, and we were was brought up in the sort of landscape subcommittee meeting that was not traditionally, there was never any turf in the center of the park. So we were asked to remove the turf and provide pavement there. So what we're showing here is that simple square plaza with our diamond-shaped pavilion sort of sitting on that. The way we've laid this out, actually, the point of our new pavilion is about in the conceptual center of the park when you see the later drawings. This was an analysis that we started to do of the park over time. So we don't have an accurate drawing of the Military Plaza, so I just made that up, but it's essentially what was happening there. And then we have Washington Park. And then in about 1909 to 1914, you simply had the one, the band shell. Around 1914, the Armory was built. Around 1936, the Senior Center was built. This is sort of what we have, moving forward with you can see our new pavilion in the center. What we have today for a Central Plaza has gotten much smaller, as you can see from the 1914 sketch here, which I was diagramming these off the original sketches. And I think this is kind of what the Historic Landscape Subcommittee was getting at, is these very clear sort of, trapezoidal shapes that end up making the form of the park in this Beaux-Arts sort of symmetrical pattern. I basically took all of these and began to just composite them and created a composite image at the end, began to look at it in different ways, separating the line work, separating the color, and then doing a really simple figured ground study. And what the idea of this is, when we look at this larger central plaza, we don't want to just do a large piece of concrete, right? We also got a comment from the landscape subcommittee. They would like to see the history of the park embedded in the park in a meaningful way, and not just a sign that says, here's the history of the park. So we haven't fully developed this yet, but our idea is to take an abstraction of this idea and then create a paving pattern for that central plaza that then would talk about the history of the park in the plaza itself. So this is something we want to bring back, but we simply have not fully developed it. But it would go along with this idea of the central square plaza. And it'd be more of again, it would be that sort of embedded historic interpretation of the park in a very subtle way, in a very simple way. We're not talking about something crazy in there, but hopefully you can start to understand. This is the earliest photograph that Helen actually found for us of the park itself with the Armory in place. And then this, I can zoom in, it's just interesting to see. There's the military, or the Washington Park with the circle in the center. Whether that circle is accurate or not, there's no way of knowing. The Sanborn maps are notoriously not very accurate, but it gives us
up to at least 1919 from what I saw.
Okay.
That's like 1997.
Is it? Okay. So my dates are a little off.
The photo you showed that's mid-century does show at least the north and the south sides having some sort of
a little bit of
a little bit of curve.
A little bit of curve. Yeah, then which is this drawing here. Let me zoom in on this. Get way in there. This was the document from the mid-60s, so it's kind of there, but it's kind of eroded to a certain degree. Yeah. So the edges of that pavement have simply come apart, I think, more than anything else, what was happening there. So again, this is a that's kind of something we really like to bring back in the future in terms of more art interpretation. This is the new sort of elevational study that we've been doing. We did reduce it from 3 sets of columns to 2. The reason we did that, if you look at, I was trying to find this drawing, that's not it. One concern we had when we had the 3 sets of drawings, when you looked at it in this elevation, and I do need to find that drawing, it ended up being 3 very thin columns that were coming down in this orientation. That's basically what it was. And it felt really lopsided and not even to us. The other thing that we got from the landscape subcommittee was that they did not want to see any sort of infill in these areas anymore. So we were showing previously some breeze block or something as a backdrop. Steve had the point that Steve Greedy, that the center of the park was always open. So creating these screens felt counterintuitive to the space of the park being open. So they were comfortable with the form of the pavilion and the shape of the pavilion, but they were not supportive of creating a solid screen wall there, and actually suggested we have no plantings in the center at all. I think we'd still like to have some plantings, and we can have that discussion tonight. That's what you're seeing here. These would be some vertical cable structures that we could grow something thinner on, some vines or something that would create that backdrop.
Or use as a basis for putting up backdrops if
Yes.
something was staged.
Yes. And actually, the way the structure is laid out, we could have hooks and you could hang things from the structure itself as those backdrops against that back area. And Valerie, jump in if I'm
Doing great.
missing something. All right. Everything's a little laggy tonight. The other things that we talked about were, again, we're showing this as block only because that's what Revit does. We're thinking this lower portion, and you'll see this better in the renderings, would be, it's either a dark masonry or the black rock from A Mountain if we can get some of it. So this is all dependent on what we're able to get. So, but at least we want to use a dark, more irregularly shaped masonry for that base layer at the bottom. It would have a cap on it that would be a precast concrete cap that you would sit on that would make the seat wall. And then we were creating a higher wall behind that. In another rendering, this is shown as concrete. Because the one thing that the landscape subcommittee talked about was people actually being able to stand up here and use these pieces more as an occupiable space rather than just, planter that is, sort of keeps you out of them. So from the pavilion side, the underside, you'd be able to sit and stand on those 2 tiers. And then from the backside, it would be actually drop into the planter where either the vines or some low ground cover could grow in those. And I'll show you the plan of that in just a second as well. Is this making sense?
How
Yes.
high is the second level?
So it's 33 feet total.
So they're 18.
18 inches and 3 feet. Yep, that's correct.
But that's supposed to be rock instead of
Correct.
CMU.
Correct.
Okay.
Let's go back to fit
And
to
I
it.
could not tell past the seat cap, is there gravel down in a hole or is it
No,
level?
we would bring the
or-
dirt, it would be filled with dirt for planting inside of it.
Okay,
So it'd come up basically level with the seat height,
okay.
or a little lower than the seat.
It was hard to tell from the photos we got.
So this is another set of sketches. These are more accurate, I think, in terms of what we were talking about. I also want to show kind of the concept behind the lighting as well. These elevations are taken straight onto the side rather than at the point. So you're seeing this thing in a more pure profile, but I think this shows the texture of that lower section, the thin precast cap on there for the seat, and then that concrete wall that would rise up behind it. And then in this view, you can see the plantings that could come on the backside of that. Again, this is fully from the backside of that same pavilion. So you'd have plantings on the backside. We're standing outside of it. The roof material, we talked about this last time. We're looking at a metal diamond shaped shingle, which we think just has a better scale to it. And it's also painted, so it could have more of a matte finish and we won't get reflection. We were very concerned about the light reflecting into the senior center itself. So we were trying to find a way to
They're little
soften it.
shingles. they need to be painted or are they like
It-
factory finished?
They're factory finished.
Okay,
Yeah, we can get a galvalume or something like that, but we felt we didn't really want them shiny
yeah,
necessarily.
could be any number of colors.
True.
And all of the angle brace, is that all steel now or are those
Yes.
concrete?
Everything, everything brown here would be steel. So it's completely steel structure, other than obviously the planter. Let's zoom back to fit the width. This is just a very, sorry, oop. Sorry, yes,
So that's where you're putting planting,
yes,
it's there like, well,
yes. That's what I'm gonna show. It's right, it's this plan right here. So you can see this is the inside of the pavilion. That's the seat wall. That's that taller concrete wall. What you're seeing in green is the planting. So that seat wall wraps all the way around. And then it's been reduced to more of a regular geometry. As we felt, again, I think came out of this meeting and the historic landscape subcommittee meeting, those curved forms weren't also not appropriate for the park either. Yes.
I don't understand that column, the vertical column, the straight vertical column. And I see the two slope columns in the planter themselves, but you don't show the vertical column.
You're
On the
you're seeing these two sloped columns in elevation. So you have slope columns on two sides. So when I look straight at this pavilion from this direction, if I'm looking this way, I'm only seeing this column looks vertical because I'm seeing it from the end.
Okay,
It's
All right.
it's the projection of the drawing that
Okay.
makes it flat.
Okay.
So the renderings are
Yeah,
easier to
that's-
understand.
oh,
And that's why it's interesting. It's great that we can do the renderings now because it used to be that architects could obscure what they were doing by the drawings they were doing. Most people can't read architectural drawings. Here's the pavilion. Now you can start to understand it. So it's these two.
We got those.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. The drawings I just showed you are supplemental. I did not put those in the original package. And then we also reworked this renderings focal length. So this is a little more accurate into what this thing would actually look like. But back to your question, you can see the angles of those two. As we come around the side of this thing, you could see that as this rotated around, those two columns would align and appear as a vertical line.
Right.
But again, you can see that the different planter heights, the very simple planters, and the much larger plaza around the edges. To go back to this drawing for just a second, I did a rendering that shows this lighting a little more clearly, but the idea is to really tuck some linear LED lighting up in the rafters so it's completely obscured unless you're standing directly under it. It would then light those rafter spaces and reflect down.
but you're only
create
going to
this
have
glow.
general lighting in there. There's no specific.
There's no specific
concentrated
lighting. So if you have an event there, you would bring in basically most events will bring in their own lighting and sound system anyway. Yes. I'm proposing as yellow right now, but that's a conversation I want to have tonight. And that's another item that if we start talking in circles, we would just rather bring the color back. Yeah, for a future conversation, which we're happy to do that as well. We've been going round and round on color ourselves. The historic landscape subcommittee suggested blues and greens. We just couldn't quite get it where it felt right to us. So I'm showing more of like a bronze, brown, and then this sort of yellow to have this warm glow to it.
But that was when you still had 3 processional arches holding up the roof structure.
Yes.
Now it's entirely different. Now it's being applied to the
Yes.
underside of the.
Yeah, and that's probably the biggest change is what John's bringing up is there were the 3 arches from the previous scheme. And now we're down to they're basically 2 arches that are now slightly splayed.
And you had them colored red and orange.
Yeah, it went from red. It was like red. Yeah, it went to red to orange. Yeah. I was thinking that looked too much like the Tucson Metro Chamber logo. It was bothering me. These are some additional renderings I did, and this is where you can start to see what that lighting might do. So you don't actually see the light source, but that sort of, you get that warm glow in the park. And the other idea we've been thinking about is that lighting might be on a sensor like a parking garage so that it will dim down if nobody's there. But if someone comes and stands under that space, those lights could come up just a little bit. And then I think what that what it does in a lot of ways is it makes it safer if there is lighting under that pavilion all the time. But also I think it creates the color could create a very inviting space for people to move into. If the light comes up, then it's obviously somebody's in there at night. So we're trying to create a way to have this thing be a little bit interactive, but also increase the safety and visibility on the site at the same time. So you
They're
can
gonna
see
have to replace all that stuff every 8 years though.
Which?
The sensors,
the motion sensor.
Yeah.
Possibly. Yeah.
we know how the parks
You
and
know.
rec is. for the
Oh,
main-
that's true. That's a good point. These are just some additional, renderings, and this I just took from much further away, trying to convey that idea of having this kind of part, this warmth glowing in the center of the park. We can certainly have the lights shut off. This is what we're going to discuss tonight. Is this appropriate? How do you feel about this? And then in terms of what the fixtures are, this is one example. This is a pendant mount, but they make a surface mount fixture that you can see here. It's a linear LED fixture, has a actually direct and indirect component. So we would mount it to the side of the beam. So some of the light would go up onto the roof to get that reflected light to come back down, and some would actually shine down off the concrete below. And these are just a series of other renderings to show, again, just more completely show the overall project. We did, like I said, we went down to just 2 of these arched forms that are now canted a bit. Here it is from the side. This was why we changed the structure, because in the previous version, again, these were 3 very thin vertical lines, and it felt top heavy way that we could. That's how we found to solve that problem and have the columns have a bit more weight to them, but feel more appropriate in terms of the overall form and shape of the pavilion, in terms of where the direction of it was going.
They're kind of fun, but don't you just kind of expect Spock to show up?
So it is a contemporary form, and I won't argue that. This is from the senior center looking towards the children's museum. The landscaping in these renderings is not complete, is not accurate. I just want to make that very clear.
That was
Yeah.
that's why that rendering you were just on is why I questioned what you were talking about plantings.
Oh, yeah. So this
Because
would,
that's
yeah,
unclear.
you're correct. That would have ground cover in is what we would intend. And then you would have, we'd have some vines that would come up these. So you get somewhat of a filtering screen and a backdrop for the stage element, but it's not completely opaque. And then the last slide is just going back to that rounded form of that central plaza rather than the square form. You can still see the square form outlined there on this drawing. So the square form is a little bit bigger. And the reason for that is really to get back to, this, I think, kind of targeting that 1914 to 1919 to 1963 sort of size of the plaza. That was the recommendation for landscapes of it. So that's the brief version of how we got to where we are today.
Actually, yes and no. They never saw a square plaza. They showed they saw the half circle plaza. But
Correct. No, but as we discussed it,
but they did say take out the turf and do hardscape.
well, we
provide
were
a
looking
plaza.
at this image.
Yeah.
The entire time we talked about a square plaza.
But that to me looks like it's got a north and a south curve to it. But maybe that's just.
True. I'm not disagreeing with you, but
No, I know.
So
Yes.
Michael, given that this is a park, have you considered graffiti?
graffiti. On the steel structure, it's painted, so you would simply paint over it. Yeah. I mean, there's not much we can do about that. I mean, if we build anything, somebody can,
Spray bottle with lacquer thinner works really well.
Yeah.
Just melts right off.
so yes.
Oh, just delineating the rounded angular would be in tile or based on the ground or.
You're saying do both, sort of?
No, I was
Oh.
asking how you had sort of a circle inside the square.
Oh, no, that was just simply, sorry.
Showing the options were presented.
Those 2 different
Oh,
design options.
okay.
One's a square option, the other one's a
Gotcha.
rounded option.
And basically, we were just sort of we left that line in just to show where that is in the other version. I'm doing both.
Two questions here.
Yes.
How are you going to interface the plaza and the walkways?
That's
Are they- The idea is the entire structure will be concrete.
in the center here. Is that what we're talking
No,
about?
I'm talking about the integration as you walk in. In other words, the diagonal pathways.
Yes, here.
Those are broom finish concrete currently.
You're talking about that point right there. That's part of this central design, you know, whatever we do with that overall paving pattern. Like maybe there's a border around it that has the same finish and texture as the sidewalk, something like that. Yeah.
And the other point I make there is if have it design, it is subtle. Because obviously to dominate that central area.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's maybe changes, just subtle changes in tone and texture of the concrete paving with control joints. So it, you know, it would appear as a uniform slab, but then you would be able to see, you know, when you got on it and we're looking straight down at it, you'd start to see there was something going on there. And then we give enough cues in there that somebody could start to pick up what this is. And you know, I mean, it's a whole design project in and of itself. I think it could be really, really cool. But you're right, it has to be really subtle so that it doesn't.
So we could do iterations of the actual surface texture as a later minor review when plans develop
Yes.
further.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for that idea, I mean, if you're interested in this idea, I would want to bring that back as a fully, you know, probably
Okay.
more than once to show you how we're developing this.
So you're basically just asking for an approval for the concept. So
Well,
we
I'm
can
asking for the
continue.
structure. So the planners, the structure is what I really, we'd like to have approval on, because then we can finish our drawings. I'm more than happy to bring back the color, the surface texture of the plaza, and lighting if there are concerns about that. We can bring that back as well. If we can get the structure and the planter configuration approved, that gets us moving in the direction we need to go.
I'd also add just whether we're gonna have radius or
Yeah.
square.
So plot,
Yeah.
yeah,
Find that.
yeah, plaza shape, yes, yes, sir.
On one of the perspectives that you showed, the walkway going in, the angled walkway going in actually showed a diamond pattern.
Which is not accurate.
Yeah, that's just a mistake in the
Oh,
rendering. Yeah, sorry,
Well, I was gonna ask you, was that, were you planning to do that? Yeah.
we're not. I think currently they basically go across like this,
Yeah. They're
and we
4
would
foot
finish
squares,
forward, yeah.
or 5 foot squares.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump in. My personal preference is to keep a half circle. One, that is now the only historical reference that there was an arch in the park. That there was a band shell form. Traditionally, amphitheaters are always half round. There will be no circular elements whatsoever remaining in the park. And I kind of liked what was shown before with the broom finish, smooth walkway all the way around with some sort of infill with some other surface texture instead of turf in the center to tell multiple stories, because we can't do arches. We can't afford that, but the circle is a part of the history in some aspect of the area. And if it goes away entirely, there is absolutely no reference whatsoever in the built environment. But
Sure.
that's a personal preference. I thought I'd throw it out.
Yeah, if I might put my 2 cents in it as well, okay. I'm afraid to say that, you know, we're back to the gas station design over here. I'm not really very enthused about it. John was 100% right when you mentioned that, you know, we no longer have a round structure, which was part of the historic tissue of the park. Now, I'm just thinking out loud over here, but did anybody ever consider a simple design like a Quonset hut type of design It doesn't have to be close on the side. It could be just the top of the Quonset hut. But if we do that, we stay within the budget, okay? And at the same token, we're still keeping the old bench shell design. It's just a thought here. But like I said, the more we're going into this particular design that you have now, the more we're going back to the gas station standard, and I can't really go for that. I'm sorry. Okay, we're losing the whole spirit of the bench shell type design of the round design in the park. So at any rate, it's my 2 cents here.
I would probably disagree with that. Going back to the square versus the round, I think you can argue both ways quite strongly. And I think if you look at the amount of time it was square versus the time it was round, I think you use that as an argument one way or the other.
I agree.
I mean, so
I told you
I
it was
don't
personal
know
preference.
that I would argue the square or the round. I personally, I would probably recommend the square, but I can accept the round. As for Maurice's comments, I think what you've done is an excellent job. I really like it. I think it's unusual for Armory Park, but I think it's an example of change as we come along. I mean, I think it fits well. I think it's a lot better than what we had before. I think it's appropriate. I think the scale is there. I think the relationship to the rest of the park is there. I'm quite happy with the results here.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing the landscaping and the texturing of the pavement. But I would strongly recommend that we stay with this plan.
I don't mind it either. I like the processional thing. It's more classic. Yes, I know. But it's all right. It's structurally functional. And instead of saying Spock's going to show up, you could say, the IMA Median F building in Denver
Sure.
as a reference.
Sure.
Because
Or the
Cowboy Hall of
pyramid,
Fame.
the pyramid at the Louvre,
Any
Well,
other thing.
you
So-
talk about the pyramid at the Louvre then too.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. So
I mean, I think it works. I think
it is in some ways more elegant, and it still
It is.
features the centrality that is so important to the park.
And then, I mean, that's
So we're-
what you said is exactly what Valerie and I have been struggling with. Is how do we make this an elegant structure?
Yeah.
A contemporary structure, but that's in context to the park in a way that feels integrated. And I think we feel like we've gotten pretty close.
I think it's getting much better, that the potential plannings and their long-term maintenance could be a longer discussion.
Yeah.
As is the paving
Sure.
and patterns and colors.
I guess the only other question I had was that the diamond pattern you're using for the roof. I mean, I like it, but I'm not too sure we have any reference towards that.
Oh, the actual shingle themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't want to do like a 3-tab asphalt shingle.
No.
Really didn't want to do that. So we were looking for some options today. Because other than that, I mean, we could do a standing seam metal, to have something that has some
I
durability.
actually like the diamond pattern. I think it's appropriate for the design that you have, for the actual shape of the structure. I just don't know where it occurs, and do we have any objection for using the diamond pattern?
There are some examples. For instance, the Ross Cruz house has a diamond pattern that's actually asphalt shingles that were put on in 1923.
Is it there now?
I think the owner just replaced those, but it was there for a very long time. And so there have been diamond
Well, I
patterns.
think my only concern is making sure that we address that and have an answer for that, because I think I like it. And
I mean, it
I'd like
is
to keep it.
the diamond pattern shingle, which actually goes back to a slate product originally,
Yeah.
is actually in I don't know
But
about
I don't know how
Armory
much
Park.
slate was ever used in.
Well, it was it. I mean, in the kind of Victorian area, which is really what a lot of Armory Park falls under, is in that sort of era of time. It is a roof type that's used.
Yeah.
Maybe not in Tucson as much, but certainly in that era of building, that type of building, I think it's really common. And actually, you see a lot where they have patterns made into it, where the different colors. So they would actually put patterns in these roofing systems, and they're gorgeous.
Just so it's not asphalt shingle.
I-
That would be
You're preaching to the choir.
that would be a real downer.
It's also long-term maintenance.
Helen,
Yes, well, first of all, I think this is really moving in the right direction. One of the things that I think we need to keep in with Armory Park is geometry. I mean, I just went writing National Register nominations.
Mhm.
And what comes up again and again is this concept of geometry. And one thing that you didn't do, Michael, you didn't give us the overview of how your geometry fit into the park, because I can imagine it, you know, you just talk about shadows or something. You know, it is creating a geometric shadow, which I think is totally appropriate. Likewise, this concept of illumination at night and creating center. I think again that reinforces this geometric concept. So I think we're, you know, whatever we're doing, if we start with that focus, it really, you know, that makes it. The other question between the circle or the rectangle, I think when you look at what was passed around, it was not really a circle. You actually had concave, you know, openings between those. I don't want to enter a third course here, but you know, you could also think about it that way. You know, that the geometry curves this way.
So
Yeah,
sort of let squish in a little bit.
right.
Versus doing that.
Yeah. You know, I just want to mention that I just noticed that in the back of the stage, you have the entrance to the senior citizen center, and if you look at the top of it, okay, there's kind of a cupola on top. Now, what you have here is a triangle, whatever, that cuts the actual architecture that comes from the senior center. If you were to put a structure that would be like a round structure that would follow the size and the pattern of that senior citizen center entrance, you would keep the harmony and you would have perfect geometry by doing that. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful structure, but in my eyes, it belongs more to an airspace museum than in Armory Park. Okay, you're putting two styles in conflict with each other. You have the senior citizen center entrance, which is round, which is you know, very specific, and now you're blocking, okay, that geometry with that triangle. Okay, to me, it doesn't make sense. Okay, and again, like I said, when I mentioned earlier the concept of a Quonset hut, what I really had in mind was really to follow the pattern of the senior citizen entrance right in the back of that triangle, which, you know, has nothing to do as far as geometry with that triangle. I'm not saying that that triangle is not beautiful. It is beautiful. It just doesn't belong there. Okay, that's my point.
I think what we're all grappling with, because you looked into all sorts of round forms and it's not cost effective. We're all grappling with, there is a design language of a circle or a half circle in Armory Park historically. It's mirrored in the Maybach bench across the street. It's part of the language of the park historically, and we haven't been able to do it in any sort of form. So, I mean, even if it's just a pattern in a square plaza, I think some iteration of a circle is important to keep in some fashion.
Sure.
How you do that, I can't
That's
say.
it. It could be that Central Plaza then becomes different interpretations of itself rather than having a scaled down version of the park. Maybe we find a way that it has the circle, it has maybe the random paths, it has the square, and we do that in the paving patterns. as a way to begin to construct this central plaza in a way that does, again, talk about the history of the park as it's changed over time and maintains the geometry that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So
I just,
Well,
I don't want it to go away entirely.
I understand, yeah. And I think Maurice, it's just, I guess it's my personal opinion that the senior center should not be what we're basing what we do with this park on. That building is very insensitive to the entire geometry of the park. So to use that as a basis of reference for a new design does not make sense.
I
to
think
us.
he's excited about the high historical semi-Palladian window, but that's like the only redeeming feature
Right.
of the entire building.
And it's not, and that's not a big.
Yeah,
amount of-
And you can't ignore the fact that that building is there. Okay, that, you can't block out this new citizen center. It's there. Okay, so, yeah, like I say, a Palladium type of a structure, okay, would be as cost effective as that triangle. Okay, it doesn't have to be, a luxury material. It could be just, corrugated steel for that matter. On 4 posts. Keep it simple.
Alright.
Okay.
I hate to stop you there, but the problem is, we're at the third iteration of the park. The city is pushing this immediately. It has to go to plans review. We are not technically able to continue this particular case, and we are stuck with the limitations of both the budget and the materials that are available, and this is where we are today.
I would also say
That other discussion was in the past.
Right. I would also say the quality of the structure is very important, and I don't think it can just be corrugated metal. That would be completely inappropriate.
I'm glad you got rid of that as a part of the language.
Could I go back to the dog park?
You can, and we can talk about other things.
Okay.
Are we generally agreed, we're okay with it, but we want to talk about perhaps some iteration of a circle and a paving pattern?
Yes.
And could we even leave the one western shape of the plaza open?
I think so. Yeah.
So what part of it?
I think just the shape of that central plaza can we
So
leave that
I
as
think that by do all this, the different sizes of the plaza space and all that to you, we gotta keep in mind, this is a west facade and the amount of heat that we're gonna gain with the size of the plaza. I think that's one of the main reasons that the existing plaza isn't utilized is it's so big hot.
I know, so that's
So
why the smaller
making it
half
bigger
Yeah,
is not, to me personally,
Okay.
a good idea, but I know when it was presented to the Historic Landscape Committee, they were like, no, look, the plaza was originally this big square. And I'm like, that's fine, but again, if it's this massive heat sink, that's a real negative. And that's my personal opinion, but we have 30 different opinions here, so we're all gonna have different ideas.
do we all like the Arizona stone or a dark stone at the base that replicates the base of the original band shell? Are we all okay?
That's a good way.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're all okay with that, and so what you do in the planners and the rest of that, we can have further discussion about, as long as you can get the structure approved and through engineering review,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay, and same with the lighting. We're okay with some sort of lighting, but we can look at whatever's,
Yes. We will plan to come back with a complete plaza design or maybe options, and we will come back with a lighting design and a color scheme.
okay.
I think those are the three main things that we want to come back to talk about.
And I think we ought to do color all the way around, because the original Armory Park lights were black and silver, but black fences aren't great. All new black fixtures aren't great, black park benches aren't great, and black details aren't great. So maybe we could have a talk about bronzy tones that might age better or other things that doesn't have. to
We
be
were
subtle
open to
tonight.
bronze or black, I
Yeah.
think, for the fence. We weren't,
We
quite
were,
honestly, that's a minor element of what color retaining this more as
Yeah.
opposed to.
Okay,
we were
major
leaning towards,
cost
that
implications.
some of these that we showed today have that bronze color on the pavilion as well, so it can make some sense. Sorry.
So Michael, can you just maybe tell the board the items that you actually want a recommendation for?
Hold on, you gotta talk about the dog park. That's part of
we've
it.
got to do dog park and plants final, because it's been revised several times.
Yes.
Okay,
Dog park, Helen,
all the things that have been done to make the dog park smaller are improvements, okay? I think it's really important that that it continues to be set the dog park exclusion because it does not fit at the underlying geography. So let's just agree to disagree on the existence of dog parks. But I think that the team has made a really good effort to minimize that. And generally speaking, given all the other things that are stuck into this park, this is actually an improvement. Get rid of the rest of the junk, you know, it will help a great deal. So, yes.
I have a question of, if there's two picnic benches, why are they in the dog?
So the dogs can eat lunch.
I was gonna say, the last place I wanna eat lunch is in the dog park.
Especially since the whole thing is 7,000 square feet
Yeah.
and basically a poop station.
No, I think, you know, additional materials are something you have to talk about for parks in general.
I
So
did-
it's like furnishings, but this is.
I think
not-
additional furnishings could be part of the ongoing discussion too,
Yeah, well,
because the city seems to be cheapening up and like, you know, approving park benches that nobody could sleep on, but are flat ugly and look like Fred Flintstones walking in.
exactly, just what we.
We don't have to have the picnic tables in there. We can explore that. It's been a thing.
In this table, I see it in the place where the owners can come and sit down.
Yeah.
Sit by cards where the dogs run, right?
I mean, they.
Sit
they
there
want
while
us to
the
sit.
dog's running around.
If you get your dog in there, they go to run around.
Still might be people that come.
I think that, and so site furnishings, I think could be another discussion, but there is set standards at Parks and Recreation for durability, all that stuff, that they have a certain.
Yeah.
Vernacular materials that they want to use.
Yeah.
And so we are guided to that direction. I don't to go to like metal or something else that would be more, I guess, appropriate for the period of this age. I think that's where we're gonna have to struggle. But we are told to do certain components and we're trying to make sure that for us, whether it's concrete or steel or whatever like that, at this stage, for our approvals of form structures and moving forward into where we need to go, that's not critical, I would say.
And on the dog park, I think it's perfectly acceptable on us to say, we do not recommend a dog park because it's just going to be a poop station. But we approve this as the most minimized plan for the intrusion to the park moving forward.
Agreed.
No,
I think Matt's done a fantastic job of working through different options, presenting different options.
We're not trying to blame you all.
It's not, it's
We're
not
not.
an easy one.
It's you.
We were
You
told
did it
dog
all.
park has to be, so
You ruined Armory.
we're finding a way to, and it's never, you know, it can always be removed, right?
Yeah, it's a political question that's out of our hands. And, you know, I've been trying to work with the ward and they're like, well, we keep hearing that apartment dwellers want a place for their dogs to go poop. And it's like, great, could you possibly consider stations or another location? It's like, yeah, the money to even think about. So it's gonna be pushed from the city, whatever we do.
but I think one of the points here that stress, and we've talked to the Parks Department about this, is when people are given a survey about what you want, they think about things you can put into parks.
Mhm.
They don't think about a park as open space, gathering place, you know, a historic space. That is never on the questionnaire.
So,
how can-
I'd like to push back on that a little bit, Helen, because we do a lot of outreach, regarding parks, and we actually do hear about people wanting to preserve open space. There are locations where we have not built dog parks that we have proposed because people didn't want them. So we absolutely do take that into consideration in preserving open space. And we did get so much feedback, in our surveys that we did, and the dog park was a really highly requested item. And so, yeah, that is definitely something Parks is looking to fulfill.
If it becomes a health hazard in the future, can it be removed?
Sure, but Parks has removed other amenities that become hazards to the public. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
I do have a question regarding the dog park. We saw pictures of the park going back to, what, 1909 or something like this? Okay, can somebody show me at any given time since 1909 where there was a dog park near? This is supposed to be a historic park. Am I right or am I wrong?
I'm
Yeah,
glad
let's
you're on the,
practice.
I'm glad you're on the record saying that for the recording. But we are
Okay.
stuck in a situation of having to mitigate the approval of the park for the historic standards. And we have to ensure that, you said you were gonna talk to SHPO. Have they said anything about any of this? Or have you been able to reach them?
I have not talked with him.
Okay, but they're completely understaffed as well, so we're doing the best we can to make sure that the historic integrity of the park moves forward. Let's do bathrooms because that will take 2 minutes.
We really didn't make any changes.
I know the Historic Landscape Subcommittee said, look into adding as many stalls as possible, but otherwise, what you're presenting tonight is what you presented last time,
Correct.
except slightly different modifications and a roll-up screen.
We did,
Is there anything else we need to talk about the bathroom?
No, I don't know.
We're all okay with the bathroom.
Thank you.
Have fun.
Thank you. The most important thing.
It could be in some situations, but you know, yeah.
When you need it, yeah, it's the most
Okay.
important thing.
So planning, so briefly, hackberry's out. Tangerine lace vine is still in your proposal, but there are 0 listed in your plans. Is that a potential for the courting and the planters under the whatever, or did you have to remove?
We left it in as
Yes.
potential for the, depending upon the cabling system and what vines and tendrils and self-climbing and all like that. We'll still explore that.
Okay. They
Is
got rid
pro
of
con-
hackberries and those are all pistachios, correct?
Correct.
Is there a pro or con on the tangent crossfire?
I love them and they last down to 19 degrees centigrade, so they do really
So
well.
that's thumbs up.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're great. They're hardy. They do need a little bit more water than one thinks. Last time you said the city is making you remove all of the oleanders around that one plan, but you showed 4 ash trees replacing it. The current plan does not have any of those ash trees. Is it just a barren plot of gravel now around that north side of the structure?
That, I might have misspoken on that one. The city's not requiring us to move the oleander. It was just a proposal.
Ah, so they're gonna just stay.
They're gonna stay.
Okay, so for the record, the oleanders are staying. Any thoughts on the Armory Park requested tree?
We approached Elliot about it. The city is open to said tree.
So Elliot, what's your thought? We were hoping like a big like specimen down in the south side to help balance all the trees on the north side of the park while you're putting in new plumbing. Is that a possibility? And Armory Park could pay for a plaque?
My biggest concern with anything that we're talking about plantings, correct, is staying away from our very large and very shallow water line. That is my #1 concern.
We were talking about the big expansive area kind of around the camera in the lower quadrant, because there are a number of trees within the northern quadrant, including the Aleppo pines and other things, and they're not very good, but somewhere down in there that wouldn't interfere with your water line, can you add a tree that we could put a plaque on that just says the Armory Park Neighborhood Memorial Tree?
I don't see why not.
Okay,
Run that area.
even a little bit farther west.
Gotta
and-
go west
yeah.
and south,
Yeah,
but yes.
just somewhere in there, like one of
We'll find a good location for you.
the
Is there
pistachios that
size that you're looking for in the species?
the pistachios work really well. The one that's on the north side or the south side of the Children's Museum is really nice and blooms every year. Well,
Good.
does a full color bed, and it's a specimen tree and they're hardy.
Let's just keep in mind that we have the 3 ponds.
Yeah, we don't want to impact any of the historic plantings, but just one tree. Okay,
Could you just say layout trees is all that? And not have a new tree?
Why not plant a tree in at the park?
I think as long as it doesn't disrupt the geometry of the park, we can talk.
There's a huge expanse of grass there with nothing in there except a photo camera current.
Right.
But the northern side of the park now has a whole bunch of trees that are being rechained in all sorts of different things that do interfere with the geometry. We're just asking for one big specimen tree somewhere in that place.
See what the proposal is. I'm not okay.
Okay, we could roll that into the future discussion with the neighborhood. Okay. And if nobody caught it, they're now doing, what is it, succession plantings along the alleys, but they are oak now instead of ash, so there'll be a slightly darker green. And they are replacing the blown over cypress. Just so we're on the same page.
Yeah, so on the discussion of the species, actually, Matt and I talked about the species multiple times, and I think the idea was that we want to maintain an evergreen tree as opposed to a deciduous tree. That as we all know that the Italian cypress are going to die out. We already lost one or two during the storm this last year. So as the live oaks start to grow and mature, because they're very slow growing trees, that will nicely transition away from the cypress.
But you are putting in a replace blown over this iteration.
Yeah.
Because they did it about 10 years ago, and those plants are still doing pretty well.
And it just, the oak is gonna take forever to grow and develop, and it's gonna be fine. And with the Sabano.
When we're all there.
live oaks, much better adapted.
Okay, great. John, what? Anything else? Okay.
I just want to say, I think we guys.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay, so essentially our motion is we approve the plantings. We request a tree. All right.
I do not question.
We approve the structure, the shape and pattern of the plaza, and the colors for the metalwork and the structure can be and the lighting can be a future review, but otherwise we're approving this iteration of the plans as presented and has shown during the meeting.
Agreed.
Does that sound?
Yes,
You want to make that?
yes.
Great. We have a second. Great. All right, roll call. I say aye. Maurice,
Aye.
Helen, Pat, Stan,
Aye.
Lynn. Great.
Who seconded?
Lynn seconded. Okay,
Thank you very much.
is that what you were looking for? Then we can,
That gets us
Continue the
a
discussion.
long way where we want to go, and I think the things we bring back are the things we want to bring back.
all right, and we didn't put it in the motion, but it's very clear that we don't want a dog park, but this is the best plan. Correct, Maria? And Elliot?
Correct.
Hello,
Okay.
Mr. Chair, sorry, can you repeat the question again?
We did not put it formally in the motion, but you all understand as to the advisory board does not really want a dog park, but we approve this iteration has an intrusion.
You can put it in your motion, yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, then.
Yeah,
I
you-
request we
I
make,
make the motion that we revise it with the statement about the dog food.
okay, you all right, Hal? Great, I'll put it in the final motion so that we're very clear moving forward. Everybody else okay with it?
Sure.
Great. All right, thanks so much. I know
Thank
this
you.
has been a long meeting.
No.
I'm really
So
glad
good.
you all are continuing to work on this and find that it's along so much better than the thing.
So will it be all right to send these same plans to PRS?
Yes.
Oh, we gotta
Let
adjourn.
me send you.
Oh, we've
this
got a few
presentation,
more
though, not
things.
the one that-
It's not the one
I'll
that
send you the new one.
yeah,
But not much.
Yeah, are we, is it
Not
December or
much.
It's January, right?
I'm trying to put you for December 12th.
Regular classes.
Because I think
Right.
kind of get such a free, so.
Yeah, I'll try, but
Last I heard,
yeah, I'll let you know.
last I heard it would be January.
Yeah, it
But I will
was-
send, I'll send you the
Okay.
full.
Item
correct-
5.
or you want me to-
Design
Here's the-
guidelines project.
No, can
This
you
will be a
upload
twenty
it?
twenty-five thing,
Just
and
upload it to.
I talked to
as a
Steve about it.
version.
I'll come back and help
Yeah.
with it. Minor
Okay.
reviews.
I'm trying to get you before on.
There have
December.
been several.
Got it. Okay.
A metal roof was approved at 138 East 14th Street. A roof replacement was approved at 748 South 4th Avenue. A solar was approved at 105 East 17th Street. And I forgot to report it last month. They are going to do some stucco repairs at the Temple of Music and Art, and I went and met with a group of people for that at the beginning of October. And there is a minor review coming up for a solar at 846 South Second. It's Thursday morning at 8:30. Does anybody want to do a Zoom meeting? I will be asleep. I have sent in my comments, which is, it looks fine as long, because it's a parapet. And the electrical box looks dodgy and needs to be approved by the building inspector, but otherwise I'm fine with it. Does anyone want to bother, or are we okay with comments like that? Are you okay with comments like that?
No, fine.
Okay,
Yeah, you've seen it, you understood it.
yeah, it's a 1922 bungalow with a parapet roof, and they're putting on 10 solar panels that are raising 10 inches off the
Which
deck.
location?
It's at 846 South Second Avenue, and otherwise it's pretty straightforward. They're planning on plugging into the existing 200 amp service, and it
Not
looks,
trees there too, along the street,
no,
you know? A second?
it's way down at the end. There shouldn't
Oh,
be,
okay, 8, okay.
Yeah, it-
Okay.
there shouldn't be any problem with it as presented, as long as it meets building code. And the back of the building, they replaced every window with like aluminum sliders in the 60s, and there's no point in saying you need to paint out the boxes, because who cares?
I just done it there for.
So you're all right doing that with Ricky?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
She's
Um,
done many of those, so she's good at that.
cool. Call to the board. Anything?
We should mention that we are making some sort of national registration. Art was this is a completely
Okay, thanks.
Michael.
We had an IID meeting last week, and we approved new housing at the former site of the, what is it, the Boondocks Inn or whatever, which looks like a nice plan in conjunction with the city. I don't have anything. Maurice, do you have anything? Call to the board.
No, I'm just curious to see what's going to happen with city funding as we get into the new administrations. But that's going to be the surprise for next year.
Yeah, that will be. He was wondering what sort of city funding will happen as politically the country moves right. Bingo. Hopefully we'll have a meeting in December. I think there's a couple of other things in the pipeline. But we'll see. If not, we may have it just to introduce people and make
Oh, yeah,
sure
no,
that
don't-
things,
There'll be a meeting in December. There is,
we will have one.
yes.
Good.
I have, somebody is trying to do a courtesy review, forgotten the address, but there will be a meeting in December.
Besides that one solar, is there any immediate minor reviews coming up?
No.
Okay, and just for other stuff, Maria at the IID meeting basically said they put out the request for people to apply for the HPO, and it wasn't filled. They don't have any candidates, so they have renewed that. So it may be quite a while before you have any help, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and so the other thing I will need to get with you, we've got to make sure that both Matt and Steve Reed are approved on the December agenda for mayor and council, so that there's a functional board in January. Okay,
So, Mr. Chair, can you let me know when is the next advisory board meeting in December?
it will be the
Is a third Tuesday.
third Tuesday, which I think is the 17th,
I think it's around 17.
16th or 17th. It's
Uh,
before
16th or
Christmas.
something. Okay.
Eh,
I may request, Mr. Chair, members of the board, if we can hold a meeting virtually. I know Michael Taku will not be available.
Oh, not the other one.
Okay, yeah, we can do it virtually. The school will be available, but if you don't have staff, yes, we can do a virtual meeting.
That would be very wonderful, and I'm thankful if that's the way, Mr. Chair.
Okay, anything, item 8, any staff updates, future agenda items, anything?
No, just that the HPO position was extended till, I think, the early part of December.
Are they,
Um,
are any of them coming in finally?
December 2nd.
I don't know, Mr. Chair. I don't have access to that information, but the position opening was extended through December, so.
And I see they added a couple of lead planner positions as well as new job openings.
A lead planner and a planner. Yes. Mhm.
Okay, then, if there's nothing else,
I have a
Lynn,
question.
yes.
Is the second or the third Tuesday?
third Tuesday.
The third Tuesday at 6:30.
And then, there's the Armory Park Christmas party coming up.
Sure, we can do that as an announcement. The Armory Park Neighborhood Association is having its annual Christmas party at St. Andrew's Parish Hall on December 7th from 5:30 to 9 o'clock. It's potluck and everybody's welcome.
Enrique is cooking the turkey, so it'll be good.
Good.
And so the association is providing turkey and mashed potatoes and stuffing and gravy and all the good stuff, and asking folks to bring veggies and salads and very soon.
Cool. And there will be an APNA meeting as well in December. So December is going to be busy yet again. I think we're all there now finally. I'm going to call the meeting at 8:53 p.m.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, Maria. Did you get everything you needed tonight?
Yes, I think we did, Michael.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, great. Okay,
Thanks,
have a,
Grace. Have a great night.
yeah, have a restful night, everybody.
And Maria,
Bye.
when will the recording be posted so I can get you these quick?
We need to download it. I'm hoping tomorrow or what day is today? Thursday, Tuesday. Tomorrow or Thursday.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll try to get them because
Yeah, we need.
because this is gonna go to, this one goes to plans review in
On the
December,
12th.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
On the 12th? Okay, okay. Great.
Okay, thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks.
Thanks,
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you.